Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week, I met with one of my constituents, Tracy Hanson, in Parliament to honour the 10-year anniversary of the tragic loss of her son, Josh, who was murdered in an unprovoked knife attack in Hillingdon, West London, in October 2015. We spoke about the tireless work she's put into campaigning for victims' rights, and I heard more about how the law she wants to introduce, Josh's Law, would ensure that the rights of victims and their families to appeal under the unduly lenient sentencing scheme are clear and equal to the rights of offenders. So I'd like to speak today specifically to New Clause 12, which was tabled in the name of my honourable friend, the member for Bexhill and Battle, the beautiful Bexhill and Battle. After cruelly taking the life of Josh Hanson, Shane O'Brien absconded and evaded police for 3.5 years before he was finally caught. Dubbed Britain's most wanted man at the time, O'Brien was sentenced to at least 26 years in prison, just 1 year above the minimum sentence. After just missing the deadline to appeal the sentence, following unclear information about victims' families' rights under the unduly lenient sentence scheme, Tracy has spent years campaigning to ensure no other victims face what her family did. Unfortunately, far too many victims and their families are facing the same problems because simply they're not being made aware of their rights to appeal sentences. There are also a concerning number of cases where clerical errors, in one case I've heard of an email stuck in a barrister's outbox, are leading to the Attorney General running out of time and missing the deadline to appeal a sentence. Whilst appeals from offenders will still be considered by the Attorney General outside the 28-day window in exceptional circumstances, appeals from victims or their families will not. Historically, victims were at the centre of the justice system. Victims were a driving force in bringing criminal cases and played a central role throughout the process. It wasn't until the 19th century there was a significant shift towards state-led prosecutions, with the victim's role in criminal cases significantly diminished. The focus has only started to shift back towards the victim with the very recent introduction of the first Victims' Charter in 1990. I believe that we must recapture more of this focus from the state and divert it back to those who are most directly impacted by crime. The lives of Tracy and her family will never be the same again. It is only right that they should have been a central focus in the criminal case and received equal rights and information about their rights to appeal the sentencing decision as the offender did. It is vital that victims and their families are clearly informed about their right to appeal under the unduly lenient sentencing scheme. Excuse me. New Clause 12 will require the Crown Prosecution Service to write to victims or their next of kin within 10 working days of a sentence being passed, to provide details of the unduly lenient sentence scheme, the application process for the scheme and the deadlines, which would also be extended, giving victims a better chance of benefiting from the unduly lenient sentencing scheme. I will give way.
I'm making a bold case on behalf of victims, and I hope he'll agree that the more we agonise about the circumstances of the guilty, the more we displace consideration of the effects on the innocent. And over the whole of my lifetime, that focus on the circumstances of wicked people has had exactly that effect. And unfortunately, it's permeated so much of the establishment, including the judiciary, that sometimes sentences are inadequate for that very reason.
I thank my right honourable friend for that intervention, and I think the justification for not changing this approach over many years has been an argument about the finality of sentence, giving the offenders the finality of sentence. Well, I'm afraid I don't think that stacks up today, and I think we need and we afford victims more rights and more sensitivity within the system. And I was coming on to my final point before I wrap up. This amendment, I believe, is totally common sense, and I think it should be supported by members across this House. It puts victims at the heart of sentencing and does not compromise the need to have finality in sentencing. It pushes the date back, but it does not change the status of finality in sentencing. So on that point, Madam Chair, I would encourage honourable members from across this House to support New Clause 12.
assaulted.